Greetings, friends. I'm Reverend Stephen Michael. You can call me Dr. Michael, Dr. Brunswick, or however you like. God bless you and welcome into this additional study on the Kingdom Message. I want to speak to you today on the topic of freedom of the Southern Republics and freedom of all original American republics. We know the Second Amendment reads, the bearing arms is for the militia of those original states for the freedom of their state. And this was those original state republics. It was those lawful entities, not the newly created corporate entities as financed from Lincoln and those European credit fraud loans and bonds that enslaved all citizens of the post-Second World War of Independence, or Civil War, into a new version of citizens and new state entities. That is to say, unless you were defending the original republics, you can't call yourself lawful militia. Whether that's the National Guard or unorganized militia that can be activated by any governor, you're not the lawful militia. These new versions of citizens Lincoln created more closely resembled Europe's Marxist communist revolutions that obliterated the sovereignty of those nations and dethroned half of Europe's successful democratic monarchies, enslaving their local people under foreign-owned schemes of taxation without representation under a centralized foreign power, usurping people's rights, controlling them by fear, tearing down ownership, enslaving all into an equality of owning nothing except what foreign powers own in their own new Marxist absolutist tyrannical dominance. The same Marxist takeover of 1848 took over the United States in the Civil War. The Civil War was the last stand for the West, and this was met with many lies. We're going to get into many of these in this study. Confederacy is the most strongest form of federal union. Many of our de jure state republics define themselves in the post-First War of Independence definitions of union as called the Articles of Union and Perpetual Confederation, meaning it's a existing confederation or pre-existing and continuing into perpetuity. This was the articles of our first post-British War of Independence lawful foundation of America. We have in the British dominance documents, even back to 1637, without any reference to the British government, that we are a perpetual confederation. Okay, so in any case, the present Constitution itself says there's an ongoing perfecting of this very same union of confederated Christian republics and their public servants, legislating only the consent of the governed. Okay. As these constantly use the term confederacy, this further advances the ideals of true federalism when there is true confederation involved. The rule of law requires understanding of definitions. The light in this area helps increase the freedom of freedom from that foggy, philosophical, vague ramblings of the enslaved and foreign agents in assault against those sworn as protectors and defenders of the Constitution. Yes, we're in a struggle against those foreign agents who are advancing against those who protect and defend the Constitution. So we're going to get into the Constitution. We're going to get into these wonderful laws and just clarity, the light to shine. I'm not going to add that much commentary. Okay, we're just going to read it. So the other day I was asked, why honor my Confederate great and 3 and 4 times great grandfathers? 2 of them were in the cavalry that were the last defenders way after the surrender of General Lee. One of them was in the close guard, the elite guard of Tennessee, right here behind me, right there. That protect the unit that still protected Jefferson Davis, the president, and those wagons of the Treasury. Okay, that got through, by the way, and the federal government wrote up documents about my family saying how we were going to restart the Confederacy, and even the great grandpa who was still alive at the time, let's see, it was in the 70s, his pension was blocked for his allegiance to the South. This was 10 years after the Civil War had ended, or 5 to 10 years after, I should say. And his pension from War of 1812 was blocked. So this goes to show you. I mean, by the way, the War of 1812, they said every American was a British citizen. And that was an illegal regent, British king who drew the borders of America at the time. So that's still all in dispute, by the way. Just to talk about legally speaking, that's why America cowers to Britain all the time. So the man asked me the other day, whose freedom were they fighting for again? Who were those freedom were those Confederates fighting for? Oh, what a brainwashed kind of statement, just this total ideology to think that they weren't fighting in the war of true independence for taxation with representation, local representation. Lincoln said it was fully a war just to get taxation on the Southern people. He declared that so many times, it's just unbelievable how anyone could think anything else. I got the link in the description. You can check it out. Lincoln many times said the war is only about taxing the South, and he did not offer them representation. I mean, everyone knew that that election was rigged by far because there were no delegates from the South in the election of Lincoln. There were absolutely zero electoral votes from the South in the election of Lincoln. On and on and on, okay? So, I mean, come on. There's normally nothing wrong with moving your Capitol building elsewhere because the people voted for it, right? I mean, most would think that. Actually, the Union was voluntary, and if you look in the main founding documents of America, they say we could leave at any time. The Declaration of Independence says that right is so vital to tear down the government at any time. And the Constitution itself says in so many places, let's just start with a few. Article 1, Section 1, the power is in the people who is represented by the independent states. Wow, it doesn't say in the power is in the central government, does it? Okay. Article 4, Section 4 says the federal agent is to guarantee a republican government, not democracies, which is mob rule. The federal government shall guarantee each state a republican form of government. These are republics. These are sovereign entities, okay, that are joined together in solidarity and equality of each state, okay, and total protection of their local rights. The 10th Amendment's there, but we got a few other amendments that really cover this freedom of association idea, which includes the freedom to disassociate at any time for any criteria. That's the freedom of association. This is enshrined as a human right in every place in every country of the whole world. Freedom to associate on any criteria and disassociate on any criteria, okay? Even to make sub-states at will, lawfully organized, and in a good way, productive, okay? Christian Union, Christian Perpetual Confederation, not attacking people, not rebellion, not, this kind of thing. And to call it rebel, that wasn't really what was going on. This was independence, okay? This was true solidarity and strengthening the federal union. Actually, the word Confederate means strengthening the federal union, actually. If you want to just get to the linguistics and the legal reasons behind it, everything about the federal anything that's anything was Confederate, okay? The con means joined together in federation. Now, you can't have federation just without anything joining it together. The states of the equality join it together, okay? That's just basic knowledge. We know this. All sorts of smart people, they throw out those words all the time of our federal this. And they do it with understanding that we're all this wonderful form of government. Rand Paul does it all the time. That, you have equal, strong states working together. That's great, And those ideas are lost. We need to explain it a little bit more to the common man. And that's what I'm trying to do a little bit here today. You can go into our advanced studies. We have the Prerogative Salem Institute of Peace Studies, which takes it a little bit deeper for those who kind of really can't handle these harder truths. So, you have that freedom of association, freedom of disassociation. You have the 10th Amendment of states' sovereign rights, being so strongly protected. It's the First Amendment that says, look, you got that freedom to associate on any criteria, all right? Now, simply because one group of states, or let's say not even a group of states, let's just say one tyrant got in there with money from a foreign bank and credit loans to unlawfully seize power over the other states and claim that his state, which was not a state, which is Washington, D.C., can unlawfully seize power over those other states through fraud and force, well, mostly money, okay? Moreover, it should not be the basis for continued and increasing usage of force and threat of force to maintain such illegal taxation without representation and usurpation over the voting rights of the local republics called states. Freedom to legislate in their own state is so vital and key. Now, they've added, okay, Supreme Court can say their opinions, but who in their right mind has said that can now override local state laws? No one. But what happens is the system is so slow to undo when there's these opinions that kind of just ram through, steamroll over other states with threat of sending in National Guard and tyrannical force and control over the freedom of the states, which is all unconstitutional. Some sort of martial law system set up by Abraham Lincoln that he promised that he was going to undo, but somehow it stayed after he got assassinated. However that came together. Okay? And we have that problem we're dealing with today. Okay? And, it's not pretty, but, hey, unless you're just some foreign agent who really wants those foreign banks to have control, and let's say they're using it now to take over energy companies, okay, or tax certain companies and drive the prices up while their family members are, all invested and own all these foreign energy companies. This is how they do it. But the communists and the Marxists are doing that, taking over, saying we're going to get our rights, we're going to get, so on and so forth, get our equality and take away and steal from those who have stuff, and so we can have stuff. And that's what they were doing. And it only created more poverty. It only created more subservience, more control by foreign dictatorships. Okay, never brought more freedom. It never brought more ownership. It never brought more distribution or equality of wealth. It brought everything to a lower level. And so, but in Christ, he wants us to have property. It says, thou shalt not steal. Okay, it's just a very basic thing. You have inheritance laws. God says you have inheritance laws. You have jubilee laws, which is cancellation of debts too. Like that. Like you have, I hate to get into all of that, but bankruptcy and that, it's a whole other topic. But, all these wonderful national laws God gave us, and a lot of them haven't been fulfilled yet, and they're going to be fulfilled by his true Israel, Saxon, and Celtic kindred nations. Okay? That's called the body of Christ. All right? And we're going to actually be regathered in the New Jerusalem. Okay? This is coming up, and it says that it'll happen before Christ returns, and he's going to come back to help the restored physical land, and he's going to set his feet down on the Mount of Olives. That's after all of our Crusader ancestor descendants from those wonderful Crusader ancestors are going to go back again and retake our rightful land as the true Israel of God. British Israelism has written hundreds and hundreds of books, thousands actually of books on this topic. So don't take my word for it. Go study them for yourself. This has been the state policy, not only in Britain, but Germany, France, a number of other countries. Okay. So, usurping the local republics. This topic is on the states' republics' freedom. Okay? We're going to have to really learn what that is. Okay? The sovereignty of each nation is what's being attacked. The republic, the federalism is really attacked, really, honestly, because its whole basis is that and we're supposed to, if we are what we are, if the states are what they say they are, if they're not these new corporate entities that are just corporations of the Bank of the Illuminati in France and Paris, okay, or wherever it is, Frankfurt, all right, or other central banks, or if you look up the Federal Reserve, there's private shareholders of the Federal Reserve, all right, and they put all this together. And if you look up those families, those are those same families who put together the usurpation of our rights and our laws and our government and our country. And there are plenty of treasonous agents who even have titles in our government, in our country, fraudulently, who claim to be working for our country, but if you really get down to the bottom of it, they're just enforcers for more tyrannical control. They're not enforcing any law. That's for sure. They're enforcing tyrannical policy of control of a foreign entity. And that's where the Constitution solves everything on this. Our forefathers did know a few things, and they did it right, setting up the state sovereignties and so on and so forth for our local representation. And these are all great things. This is all freedom for all states equally. And this isn't saying only the South and all this stuff. But it's a great, glorious thing where I was able to open up this topic when someone had asked me, hey, why do we celebrate our ancestors of the Confederacy? Whose freedom were they fighting for? Okay, they were fighting for the same rights of the First War of Independence as the Second War of Independence, and that was against taxation without representation. Okay? Lincoln knew it. He admitted it. This was the only cause of the war. Way at the end of the war, 3 years in, they added one state could have emancipation. Okay? But the South already had freedom for all slaves there, and they, come on, we're going to get into that in a bit, but the South already had laws against slavery. And even before, in the original Confederacy, you couldn't have permanent slaves. It was only called indentured servants. I'm going to get into that too in just a moment here. So often these crimes of conquering, usurping, all this treason, all of this overtaking our laws, are all of the rule of law are just justified supposedly, and so their foreign-owned family members can own the foreign economy, fleecing the people, and they allege some sort of ethnic suppression as a justification for further crimes. Whether or not those did such, they died 150 years ago. We don't have any evidence of anything else. But we do know they didn't even dream about holding anyone down who wanted to go anywhere. Our Southern ancestors, and especially the North, we know that the North wanted to keep slavery, but let's just talk about our own ancestors of the South. They were great at, trying to get out of the system in a gazillion ways. That if you just try to get out of the system in any way you try, okay, they're going to come after you, okay, by force. Try getting out of that total usurped government system. They have so many ways. Even if you don't pay a little tax, they can end up taking your house. This war against the illegal usurpation of our rights was a lot easier to understand. The Civil War of Independence was much easier to understand than the war against the British. Most couldn't really rationalize what was going on there. Most loved the king. 3% didn't like the British dominance of the American colonies. So you had what's called 3%ers. And even them, most of them loved the king. They just didn't like the parliament, which was representing them from England. And that was the same with even England itself. The biggest problem was in these, money-hungry Congress, kind of like our Congress, where the families own stuff and they pass suppressive laws and they get through, okay? And they have to get elected and they have to do all these schemes to get elected. But the original model with the House of Lords was hereditary. You didn't have to fight your way to the top and try and get all this campaign financing together and do all these deals to get your position, okay? That's where all that corruption has come in. So they started doing half of them are with that model, and then you had all this corruption start coming in, okay? There should be better checks and balances and measures to ensure that their family members aren't profiting off the whole thing. And, for example, Biden's right now maybe going to pick a war with Russia, and who knows, let the communists take over. Maybe he'll get conveniently sick and just resign and put Kamala Harris in control of the war with Russia and, sneak out the back with when the communists take over. He'll have his foreign-owned energy companies. All his family owns all of them. and he'll be making a great profit like he has been, driving up prices and putting more dependence on foreign energy that conveniently his family has owned and has dealt with Chinese and Russian multi-million and billion-dollar contracts. But the southern states, anyhow, getting back to these kind of false pretenses of ethnic suppression, the southern states were the first to abolish slavery, and the North were making it so all states had to go under one standard, and so long they didn't bring slavery as an issue. In fact, many scholars said if the South wanted to keep slavery, all they had to do was lay down their arms, even on the third and fourth year of the war, okay? If they wanted slavery to remain, just lay down their arms. It had nothing to do with that, okay? We all know this. Today, the USA is still under such illegal occupation by a foreign so-called federal tyrant today, forcing illegal mandates. The same as Lincoln did, okay? Just in a different way. By the way, American whites had mostly kept slavery illegal, okay? You know what? It was a black man, Anthony Johnson, who changed the laws. He was a free black man who came over as an indentured servant, which meant the maximum of 7 years. He could work his way to freedom. This was the law for America, and this was the only Christian law that we had. It was called indentured servants that our forefathers put in place. Anthony Johnson went at great lengths to get this overturned in court so that he could keep slaves as property for their whole lives. This changed the fabric of the system of slave ownership that was never intended in America. For the first several hundred years, the catalogs of ship records show it that most of those indentured servants or slaves were white, okay? And it continued in America. But there wasn't so much of a generational slavery because they would choose. They didn't really want to be slaves, but you can also choose to be a slave. Biblically also, you can get a ear piercing that proves that you're a free slave. You chose to stay with your master, and you want to live there with your master and continue there as a free man. There were no negative connotations on this whole idea that's rampant in the brainwashed ideology of the present toxic, deviant, atheist culture today. Let's not let that stop us from shining the light of truth in any of these areas. As when the light shines, the darkness does not overcome it. White American Christian law fought to free slaves. However, this black man fought to keep slaves as property for life. It's sad to see our Christian law already deteriorating so early in the British colony. It was not only Lincoln who said the war had nothing to do with slavery. There were numerous other scholars from the North who wrote that if the South wanted to keep slavery going, all they had to do was lay down their arms at any time during the first 3 years of the war. Just lay down your arms. Lincoln further promised to return all blacks to Africa. After the war, so many blacks preferred the so-called slavery, and they stayed. They wished that they could stay. A lot of them hated to be freed. They didn't like all the stresses of our Protestant and Christian civilization, all these new obligations as being an equal citizen under white man's law. They want their own representation. There's nothing wrong with that. They want their own self-determination. They don't want to go under our system. Why would we want to force them into that? That's like kidnapping. This is what was done. But still, the laws remain. Even though they became citizens, still the laws remain that till 1970, any new arriving non-white could not become naturalized as American citizens. This is law undisputed anywhere. Till 1970. No one who was non-white could become naturalized as a citizen. And even many were stripped of citizenship up through the 1960s, okay? But somehow this was overlooked in regards to those freed blacks, this whole concept of law. Legal scholars still debate at whether it was correct to force them into the white man system. Some even call it kidnapping to force them against their own native culture, to merge into a foreign European cultural set of laws and system. Many blacks don't want to be in the white system and want self-representation and self-determination, the true freedom. This all would agree on the main principle of the First Amendment, which is freedom of association and freedom of disassociation on the basis of any criteria. And that cannot be blocked, or there are major crimes going on against the Republic and open revolution against the Constitution itself, which those who have been sworn to protect and defend the Constitution are striving to protect. And so, praise be to our God. I hope that this message has been a little bit enlightening to you. Please share it out. Please subscribe. We have many more videos to do, just like this one, and even more powerful. Take care, and bless you in Christ's name for all those who choose to do what's good. God bless you. His word says what is good. We love you. Take care. Bye-bye.